All right, let's dive right in. Today we're talking about something that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's happening right now. We're talking about a company that can literally think for itself. So how on earth is that even possible? Let's get into it.
Just let that question sink in for a second. What if your supply chain could heal itself during a crisis? What if your finance team had a partner that could sniff out and stop fraud before anyone even knew it was there? You see, this isn't about just speeding things up a little bit. This is about building a business that's fundamentally smarter, faster, and way more resilient. That is the whole promise of the autonomous enterprise.
But, to really get where we're going, we have to understand why the old way of doing things is kind of hitting a wall. For years, the big buzzword was automation, right? We build all these systems based on really rigid, fixed rules. And here's the problem. The real world, well, it doesn't follow the rules.
And that is the absolute heart of the problem. Think about it. A tiny software update, a supplier changes a form on their website, some unexpected global event, any of these things can make that old-school, brittle automation just completely shatter. It was built for a perfect, predictable world, and, well, that's just not where we live.
This really shows you the massive shift in thinking. On one side, you've got the old playbook, these rigid bots that are stuck on a fixed path. They're great for doing the same thing over and over, but the second you throw them a curveball, they just collapse. But on the other side, that's the future. Autonomous agents. They're literally built for a world that's always changing. They don't just follow a script, they learn, they work with each other, and they adapt on the fly.
So when you lean too heavily on that fragile, old-school automation, you create this huge vulnerability. The source material calls it the operational defense gap, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the gap between what your rigid systems were designed for and what the real world actually throws at you. Things like supply chain chaos, sudden labor shortages, you name it. Your business is basically left wide open.
Okay, so this is where the fun begins. This is the revolution. We are fundamentally shifting away from just automating simple tasks to building real, genuine autonomy into the very core of how a business runs. And the engine behind this entire shift? AI agents.
So what is an autonomous enterprise, really? It is super important you don't picture some single, all-powerful robot boss calling all the shots. That's not it at all. The reality is actually much cooler. Think of it more like a distributed team of experts, a whole network of specialized AI agents, where each one is a pro in its own little area, and they all collaborate to get the job done.
Now, of course, not all agents are built the same. You can kind of think of it like a ladder of capability. At the very bottom, you've got agents that just run simple, repetitive loops. But then you start climbing. The next level up can intelligently pick the right tool for a job. Then you get to reflexive agents, which can actually look back at their own work and improve it. But the top level, that's where the magic happens. Proactive agents. They predict and solve problems before a human even realizes something is wrong. That, right there, is the real game changer.
So this is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? How do you actually build one of these thinking companies? Because the architecture, the blueprint you use, is everything. And a lot of people get this wrong right out of the gate.
This is trap number one. The first instinct is to try and build one giant monolithic AI, a super agent that's supposed to do everything. But that approach is a total nightmare. It's impossible to audit, it's a black box, and it's a single point of failure that can take your whole operation down.
The winning strategy is actually the complete opposite. It's a model built on an army of small, focused, specialized micro-agents. Each one has one job and does it really well. This makes the whole system more resilient, totally transparent, and way easier to manage. If one little agent has a problem or needs an upgrade, you just swap it out. No big deal. The rest of the network just keeps humming along.
Okay, so if you have thousands of these little micro-agents, how do you get them to work together like a symphony? Well, that's where you need these clever orchestration patterns. For instance, chaining lets you link agents together to handle a complex, multi-step job. Routing is like a smart traffic cop, sending each task to the perfect agent for the job. And patterns like Evaluator Optimizer create these awesome feedback loops where one agent literally checks another agent's work to make it better. This is how you build a system that's truly reliable at a massive scale.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Giving AI this much autonomy sounds a little scary. And you're right, which is why governance and trust are completely non-negotiable. These systems have to be built with safety baked in from the very beginning. That means super strict permissions on what tools an agent can even touch,
full audit trails of every single decision, and most importantly, critical checkpoints where a human has to give the final go-ahead. This isn't about losing control. It's about getting a much smarter, more transparent kind of control.
All right, we've gone through the theory, we've talked about the architecture, but what does this actually look like when the rubber meets the road? What's the real-world impact? Well, let me tell you, it's not small. It's absolutely transformative.
I mean, just look at these numbers. Companies that are actually deploying these AI agent systems are seeing productivity gains of between 40 and 80%. And no, that is not a typo. We're not talking about tiny little improvements here. We're talking about a massive leap forward in what a company can do.
And this is happening across the board. In logistics, you have agents rerouting entire fleets of ships in real time to avoid port closures. In finance, they're hunting down complex fraud patterns 24/7, way faster than any human team could. For big enterprise companies, tasks that used to take teams of people days, like drafting a complex credit risk report, are now getting done in minutes.
And this brings us to maybe the most important point of all. What happens to the people? How does the human role change in all of this? Well, this isn't about replacing people. It's about elevating them. Instead of being stuck down in the weeds, just operating the machine, people get to become strategic supervisors. They're the ones designing the system, overseeing the agents, and focusing on the big picture challenges that truly need human creativity.
Because at the end of the day, that's the real prize: strategic freedom. It's the freedom from constantly putting out operational fires. It's the freedom to actually think long-term, to innovate, and to point the entire power of your company, both the human talent and the AI talent, at the stuff that really, truly matters.
So we'll end with this. The move to becoming autonomous. It's already happening. That debate is over. The real question now is about how we do it. Who is going to be thoughtful enough and careful enough to design these systems the right way? Who will build them safely and effectively to unlock all this incredible potential? That's the challenge and the massive opportunity that's right in front of us.